Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your heart in silence. Not the calm silence, but that dense, uncomfortable, almost oppressive silence. The silence that comes after a heartfelt request. Have you ever been there? Perhaps you prayed fervently, visualized in detail, meditated with hope, and yet nothing happened. Or rather, apparently nothing happened. The world remained the same. The answers did not come. The miracle did not descend from heaven. And faith, which was once a flame, now flickers like a candle about to go out. This moment, so intimate and lonely, is the point where many give up, where skepticism creeps in through the crack of doubt, where the weary heart begins to ask itself, was I heard? Was I seen? And it is precisely here that the true spiritual journey begins, when the universe falls silent so that you can learn to listen in a different way. Because what you call silence may actually be the echo forming, the pause before the answer, the vibrational reorganization that precedes the new. Many of those who walk this invisible road, adults between the ages of 35 and 70 especially, have already experienced the weight of loss, illness, separation, and existential crises. They are people who are not looking for ready-made answers, but rather meaning. They do not want a spectacular miracle, but rather subtle proof that they are not alone. They desire, more than anything, to rediscover the sacred within the ordinary. If you are here watching this video, perhaps you are at this very point on the path, sitting on the edge of the invisible, waiting for something, anything, to finally reveal itself. But what if I told you that the answer has already arrived, that the universe has heard you, but you haven't noticed yet? Because the universe doesn't respond like humans do. It doesn't send written messages. It doesn't speak with words. It communicates in vibrations, in frequencies, in imperceptible movements that, if you're not paying attention, will seem like nothing more than background noise. In this video, we'll explore the 5 profound and often painful signs that your request has been answered. Not how you wanted it, but how your soul needed it. We'll talk about the silence before the answer, about how we confuse synchronicity with coincidence, about why crisis can be the universe's most loving response, and above all, we'll learn together a transformative practice for hearing what the universe is trying to tell you right now. Because you're not broken, you're transforming. And all healing begins with accepting what hurts. Are you with me? Have you ever felt like you were a millimeter away from a revelation? Like there was something in the air, almost tangible, but still out of reach? That's the territory of almost. A liminal space between request and manifestation, between intention and response. It's where the universe goes silent, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Many people arrive at this stage with exhausted hearts. I meditated, they say. I visualized. I believed. But nothing changed. And the pain is not only from the absence of what was asked for, but from the feeling of being ignored. It is a silent suffering, often not even understood by those who feel it, because it is not physical pain. It is vibrational pain, a discomfort that arises from the misalignment between the mind's expectation and the soul's frequency. However, this silence is not empty. It is full of invisible movement. The quantum field, as scientists such as Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton explain, responds to the frequency of emotion, not to the despair of the mind. And every time you make an emotional request, a sincere prayer, a visualization loaded with intention, the field reorganizes itself. But reorganizing reality is not like pressing a button. It's like adjusting the frequency on an old radio. You turn the knob gently, trying to find the exact spot where the sound is clear. And in that process, there is static, noise, intervals where nothing seems to make sense. That is the silence before the answer. And this is one of the most subtle keys. The pain of almost is not a mistake. It is an invitation. It is the universe calling you to a finer, truer alignment. When you pray or visualize sincerely, you are planting a vibrational seed. But each seed needs an invisible amount of time to break through the earth. There is a gap between planting and harvesting. And in that interval, true faith reveals itself, not as blind belief, but as vibrational trust. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, said that what we resist persists, and what we accept transforms. The almost only hurts because we fight against it, because we want to solve it with logic, when in fact it is poetry in the making. The question then is not, why hasn't the universe answered yet? But rather, what in me needs to be tuned so that I can hear the answer that is already coming? This change in perspective is subtle but powerful. because it takes us out of the place of victims of silence and puts us as co-creators of listening. Have you ever thought that perhaps at this very moment, the universe is whispering the answer through a gentle intuition, a strange dream, a persistent feeling? But we are so conditioned to expect spectacular answers that we ignore the whispers of the sacred. Joe Dispenza teaches that to manifest something new, you need to be someone new. And this process of internal transformation is not always visible. It happens in silence, in discomfort, in the almost. If you feel like you're in that space right now, breathe. Honor that interval. You are on the threshold between what was and what will be. And although it seems like nothing is happening, everything is moving. Maybe the universe has already heard you. And maybe, just maybe, it's you who needs to learn to listen differently. Have you ever come across a repeated numerical sequence such as 1111 several times on the same day? Or unexpectedly encountered someone right after thinking about them? Perhaps you heard a seemingly random phrase in someone else's conversation that answered exactly the question you had been silently asking yourself. Most people experience this and ignore it. They call it coincidence, a chance occurrence. But what if it isn't? Carl Gustav Jung, one of the great masters of the human soul, coined the term synchronicity to describe these events. Not as mere coincidences, but as meaningful manifestations of the collective unconscious and the quantum field. Jung said that synchronicities are coincidences with purpose, and that they become noticeable when we are in tune with our inner process. However, recognizing synchronicities requires a special kind of attention, a symbolic listening, because the universe does not use direct language. It speaks in metaphors, patterns, echoes. It does not send answers as a text message, but as a subtle dance of intertwined events. And here is the most common mistake: expecting the signal to come with neon lights when it arrives as a whisper. Expecting the answer to come with the force of an explosion when it manifests as an almost imperceptible detail. That is why so many confuse synchronicity with coincidence, because they are waiting for a noisy miracle, not a delicate breath. Imagine that your life is like a great river, and every thought, every emotion is a stone thrown into that water. The quantum field, that vibrational fabric that connects everything and everyone, responds to the waves you create. And those waves begin to shape the surface of the river. They cause objects to float toward you, encounters, opportunities, veiled messages. But if you are too distracted by the search for the big sign, you will not see the small ones. Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the pioneers of the law of attraction, said that signs come first in the form of gentle suggestions. If you ignore them, the universe speaks louder. If you still don't listen, it screams. The problem is that when the universe screams, it is usually in the form of a crisis. So the wisdom lies in sharpening your gaze, in noticing the patterns that repeat themselves, in noting the synchronicities, however small they may seem. Because nothing is small to the universe. Every detail carries the vibration of your intention. Did you ask for clarity? Maybe it's in that book you impulsively chose at the bookstore. Did you ask for transformation? Perhaps it begins with that new person who appeared without logical explanation. Did you ask for liberation? Perhaps it lies in the discomfort of something that did not turn out as you expected. And here is the vibrational key. When you change inside, the world outside begins to respond. But this response comes through synchronicity, not linearity. Greg Braden teaches that the heart and brain need to be in coherence so that we can clearly perceive what the field is telling us. This means that it is not enough to think about a request. You have to feel the request, and then observe with sensitivity how the universe responds. Synchronicities are like points on a spiritual map. They do not reveal the final destination, but they indicate the direction. And often, it takes faith to follow a clue that seems insignificant at first glance. But remember, the universe is a subtle artist. It paints messages on the edges of your routine. It writes letters in unlikely coincidences. It calls you not with fanfare, but with poetry. If you start seeing the same word in different places, pay attention. If a phrase touches your heart as if it were written for you, listen. If a number or symbol keeps reappearing, observe. These are the universe's notes. And it's not about superstition, but vibrational sensitivity. Bruce Lipton says that our body is a biological antenna that picks up signals from the field we're connected to. When you're aligned with your intention, you start to pick up these signals more clearly. Therefore, the next step in your journey will not come with fireworks. It will come with a nuance, a subtle repetition, a pattern that reveals itself when you slow down your gaze. Do you still think it was just a coincidence? Or have you begun to realize that maybe it was an answer? What if the answer you've been waiting for came dressed as loss? This is one of the most difficult and most transformative truths of the spiritual journey. Not every answer comes as an apparent blessing. Some come as collapses, as goodbyes, as breaks that seem unfair, even cruel. But they are in fact portals. The key is to know how to look beyond the form and perceive the call behind the pain. Perhaps you lost a job that had sustained your life for years, or a relationship that seemed to be the foundation of your identity. Perhaps you received a diagnosis that shook all your certainties. In moments like these, the first reaction is one of rebellion. The mind asks, how can this be the answer? How can this be love? The answer lies in inversion. The universe does not operate with the logic of convenience, but with the wisdom of vibrational coherence. It is not concerned with maintaining your comfort zone. It is committed to expanding your consciousness. And often, for that to happen, the old must fall away. Tom Campbell, physicist and consciousness scholar, states that the purpose of life is the growth and evolution of the soul, and growth rarely happens in comfort. Crisis in this context is a catalyst, a necessary reconfiguration to break patterns that your mind would never let go of on its own. Think about it. How many times have you only changed when everything fell apart? How many revelations came in the midst of pain? How many old versions of yourself had to die so that a new one could be born? It's hard to accept, but some prayers are answered with deconstruction. Because what you asked for with words, I want peace, I want love, I want purpose, was not compatible with the life you were living. So the universe, with its relentless precision, begins to remove everything that does not vibrate with what your soul is asking for. This process is like spiritual pruning. The tree doesn't understand when the gardener cuts its branches, but it is this cutting that allows for stronger flowering later. You were not punished, you were adjusted, you were repositioned. Neville Goddard said that everything that happens in your reality is a response to your consciousness. This means that even pain is a manifestation, but not of your guilt, of your need to awaken. And awakening sometimes comes with tears. Imagine you are in a dark room. You have been there for a long time and have become accustomed to the shadows. Suddenly, someone opens a window. Light floods in, and your eyes hurt. You cover your face, wanting the window to close. But little by little, your eyes adjust, and you realize that there was much more in that room than you could see in the dark. Such is the spiritual crisis. It tears through the darkness, and it hurts, but it also reveals. Physicist David Bohm spoke of the implicit order, a deeper reality hidden beneath the apparent chaos. On the surface, everything seems confusing, but on the invisible plane, there is a higher logic organizing the chaos. When life falls apart, this implicit order begins to emerge, but only if you allow it. If you are willing to look at the crisis with new eyes, you may realize that there is a seed there, an ongoing reorganization, a redirection towards something more authentic, more aligned with your essence. But that does not mean denying the pain. On the contrary, pain needs to be honored, validated, welcomed, because it is a messenger. All healing begins with accepting what hurts. Paramahansa Yogananda said that difficulties come not to destroy us, but to teach us that we are more than we imagine. And that is exactly the call of the crisis response, to reveal who you really are when everything you thought you were no longer works. Perhaps you asked to be free, and the universe destroyed the cage. Perhaps you asked for clarity, and the universe removed everything that was confusing. Perhaps you asked for love, and the universe separated you from everything you were attached to. The mind suffers, but the soul understands. The challenge is to allow this understanding to reveal itself over time, without trying to rush the process. Because true understanding is not mental, it is vibrational. It comes when you stop fighting what happened and start listening to what it is trying to tell you. What if the crisis is exactly the answer you needed? What if the collapse is the portal? Perhaps the universe is guiding you not along the easiest path, but the truest one. After understanding that silence can be a vibrational stage, that synchronicity is a symbolic language, and that even crisis can be a form of response, the inevitable question arises: how can we perceive the signs that the universe is sending us more clearly? We are not talking about mystical gifts, but about refined sensitivity, about an inner training that allows you to translate the invisible into meaning. Because the quantum field, that energy matrix that connects all things, constantly responds to your vibrations. The question is not whether the universe is speaking. The question is, are you listening? Bruce Lipton teaches that our beliefs act as filters between what we perceive and what actually exists. This means that many signs go unnoticed because our mind, addicted to old patterns, rejects them before even considering them. Therefore, the first step in decoding subtle signs is to clear this channel of perception. The technique we will explore here consists of 3 simple but powerful steps: daily inner silence, synchronicity journaling, and symbolic listening. Together, these practices form a true vibrational map that allows you to read the language of the universe more accurately. First, daily inner silence. We live in a world of constant noise, sounds, notifications, incessant thoughts. Our nervous system is often overloaded, and in this hyperactivity, subtle signals are lost. Creating a daily space of silence is like opening a clearing in the dense forest of the mind. This silence does not need to be absolute, nor does it need to last for hours. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day in a quiet place where you allow yourself to simply be. Sit down, close your eyes, and observe your breathing. No goals, no judgments, just presence. It is in this silence that your frequency begins to stabilize. And when your vibration stabilizes, the field responds with greater clarity. Regular practice of this silence not only calms the mind, but also sharpens subtle perception. You begin to notice patterns, feel intuitions, perceive directions. Silence becomes fertile ground for spiritual listening. Second, synchronicity journal. The mind forgets what the heart feels, and many synchronicities are dismissed as irrelevant because they are not recorded. Creating a journal, physical or digital, where you write down small unusual events may seem simple, but it is deeply revealing. Start by observing words or phrases that appear repeatedly, people who cross your path unexpectedly, dreams with strong symbols, repeating numbers, abrupt changes in routine that lead to unlikely encounters, internal sensations that precede something significant. By noting these events, you begin to create a map. And when you review that map weekly, patterns emerge. What seemed random reveals itself as part of a larger dialogue. You begin to understand that the field not only responds, but responds with symbolic intelligence. Neville Goddard said that imagination is the channel between the visible and the invisible. By recording your experiences, you strengthen that channel. Your subconscious begins to realize that the signs have value, and then more signs come. It is a cycle of vibrational refinement. Third, symbolic listening. This is the most refined stage of the practice. It is when you begin to ask, what is this trying to show me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Symbolic listening is the ability to translate everyday events into spiritual messages. A glass that breaks right after a difficult conversation can symbolize the breaking of an energy that needed to be released. A sudden rain can represent emotional cleansing. A forced wait can be an invitation to surrender. This listening requires detachment from conventional logic. It invites you to access the poetic side of existence, to realize that the universe, as Manly P. Hall said, is a living book of symbols waiting to be read. But be careful. This is not about interpretive paranoia. It's not about obsessively looking for signs in everything. It's about being open, receptive, with your heart listening and your ego silent. This practice of symbolic listening is strengthened by silence and journaling. The more you immerse yourself in these steps, the more naturally the symbolism of events reveals itself. The invisible becomes legible, and your relationship with the field is transformed. This map, silence, recording, and listening, is not a rigid method, but a living path. It serves to remind us that applied spirituality begins in everyday life, that the divine is not only in temples or books, but also in traffic, in dishes, in the unexpected. When you learn to decode the signs of the field, you no longer need to wait for external answers. You become your own oracle, a being who not only asks but understands, who not only suffers but interprets, who not only waits but listens, and by listening transforms everything. Imagine for a moment that you're inside a cave, not just any cave, but a deep, silent, ancient cave where even your breath seems to make no sound. You enter with a request in your heart, a desire, a pain, a question. With courage, you shout this request out loud like a cry. It echoes off the cold walls, and then silence. You wait, and nothing happens. It is at this moment that many give up. They think the cry was lost, that the cave is deaf, that God did not answer. But what few understand is that the echo, that vibrational return, does not come immediately. There is an interval between sending the intention and receiving the response. And that interval is alchemy itself. This dark cave is a metaphor for the subconscious mind. It is the territory of the invisible, the non-rational, where vibrations take shape before becoming matter. When you launch an intention with emotional force, it does not disappear. It enters the cave, and there in the silence it finds the field. Max Planck, father of quantum theory, said that consciousness is fundamental. Matter is derived from consciousness. This means that what you emit, in thought, emotion, energy, shapes what will be manifested. But the time of manifestation is not linear. It is vibrational, and the echo often returns transformed. Most people are so accustomed to immediate responses that they lose sensitivity to this echo. They expect it to return in the same tone, in the same format. But the universe is an alchemist. It takes your request and transmutes it. Sometimes what returns is different, but it is exactly what your soul needed. The echo can come as an unexpected intuition, like a conversation that touches your heart, like a forced pause that takes you inward. And yes, it can also come as loss, as deconstruction, as rupture. But the echo never comes empty. It carries the energetic signature of what you emitted. The question is, are you listening with your heart, or just with your mind? Terence McKenna said that nature is magical and the language of the universe is symbolic. The cave, therefore, speaks in symbols. It does not respond with phrases but with patterns. You shout, "I want to be free," and the echo comes back as the end of a relationship that imprisoned you. You ask for clarity, and the echo returns as the loneliness that forces you to look inward. You beg for transformation, and the echo comes back like a collapse. The silence of the cave is not empty. It is gestation. In the womb of the earth, something is being formed, and that something needs the time of the invisible. Because what is being created is not just a new reality. It is a new version of you. Muji often says that the answer you seek is already present, but your mind needs to be silent to hear it. And that is exactly what the cave metaphor reveals. The echo was never absence. It was preparation. It was attunement. There is also a profound symbolic detail. The echo is not just a repetition of the original sound. It is the sound transformed by the structure of the cave, by the curves, the depths, the matter. So too is the universe. It takes your intention and shapes it according to the structure of your being. The deeper your soul, the more transformative the echo. This metaphor is especially powerful for those who are living in the not yet phase. Those who feel they have already asked, already cried, already begged, and yet the answer has not come. To them, the cave offers a symbolic whisper. I am echoing. But your heart still needs to learn to listen to the new sound. It is at this point that many connect with the sacred, because listening to the echo is no longer about controlling, forcing, or desiring. It is about surrendering. It is about letting go of the expectation of form to trust in the essence of return. Jiddu Krishnamurti said that truth is a territory without paths. The echo is like that truth. It does not come where you expected it to, but it comes, always. And if you are attentive, truly attentive, you will notice that the sound has returned, but not as a direct reflection. It has returned as wisdom, as presence, as internal change. You have become another person in the silence of waiting. And now, with a new vibration, you listen differently. So the next time you make a request to the universe, remember the cave, the echo, the sacred time between the sound and the return. And most of all, remember that the echo does not lie. It responds at the exact frequency of your soul. The question is not whether the universe heard. It is, are you ready to hear the answer? We have reached the end of this journey. But perhaps what we call the end here is in fact the true beginning. The beginning of a more refined listening, of a more attentive look, of a vibration more aligned with that which your soul so yearns for. You have walked with me through the invisible spaces where the universe responds, not with words, but with frequency. Not with guarantees, but with echoes. And now perhaps you can realize. The answer you have been seeking so much was already coming, slowly, silently, transformed. The silence that once seemed like abandonment now reveals itself as the field in reorganization. The synchronicity that had gone unnoticed is now read as a clue. The crisis that seemed like punishment reveals itself as realignment. And even the wait, which was once painful, is now seen as a sacred time of inner gestation. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our thoughts and emotions directly influence our body and our reality. Joe Dispenza teaches us that each elevated emotion is a code for changing our state of being. And Greg Braden reveals that coherence between heart and mind is the gateway to transforming intention into reality. These teachings aligned with those of so many other masters that we echo here, from Jung to Yogananda, from Florence Shin to Alan Watts, all point to the same truth. You are already co-creating your reality all the time. The challenge was never to make the universe listen. The challenge is to realize that it has already listened, and that now everything around you, from the most trivial to the most symbolic, is responding at the exact frequency that you emitted. This does not mean that everything will happen according to your will, but it does mean that everything will happen according to your vibration. The universe does not move on a whim. It moves by vibrational coherence. And when you understand this, something changes within you. Anxiety gives way to confidence. Haste dissolves into presence. And doubt is transmuted into sacred observation. The question we started this video with, did the universe hear my prayers? Now transforms into another, more powerful one. Am I ready to acknowledge the answer even if it doesn't come in the format I expect? Because the soul doesn't need proof, it needs connection. And connection begins with listening. Not listening with the ears, but listening with the being. Listening with the soul that knows it is being guided, even when everything seems uncertain. That feels even in the dark that something is moving in its direction. Maybe you haven't received the answer you so desperately want yet. But what if it's already there? In the details, in the pauses, in the ruptures. What if what seems to make no sense now is exactly what will lead you to your most complete version? Finally, I leave you with a simple practice. In the next few days, before going to sleep, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is the universe trying to show me today? Don't expect an immediate answer. Just allow this question to resonate and observe, feel, write it down. The answer will come. Perhaps as a dream, perhaps as a symbol, perhaps as a silent certainty in your heart. Because the universe speaks to those who listen with their heart. And if the pain you feel today is in fact the echo of an answer that is already transforming your reality, you will have finally understood. The universe is not silent. It whispers. Always.